Happy holidays, folks! We have a new Undertale and Deltarune newsletter to peruse through. I always love just taking a second to, go through these with you, share my own thoughts. Like I've said before, I don't think I usually add much, but they're just fun to look through, My favorite part, without doubt, is always the sprite art and animations that we get with these, and this one has a lot of fun art. First, we get Toriel in this cute little outfit. Kind of makes you wonder how much she really needs to bundle up with all that fur, but I really like the shade of this kind of dull pink that she has. Most people depict her in purple because that's, kind of her quote-unquote color, but it's nice to see her in something different. We get a little Heat's Flamesman, who cannot seem to catch any snowflakes for obvious reasons. Most of us were already aware of this, but Toby Fox is now on Blue Sky. I do have a Blue Sky account, but it's not like I do anything with mine. I don't do anything with most of my social medias, if I'm being honest. But for those who are interested in Blue Sky and Blue Sky accounts, we now know that this is for sure Toby's, and this is something that he's mentioned before, and he's confirmed that this was his real account, so it's not anything new, but it's still interesting. It's always fun to see Papyrus and Sans again. I love their little dynamic. I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons why people are so sad that we haven't seen Papyrus yet in Deltarune, is just because the skeleton bros are so fun, but they're most fun when they're together. In my opinion, at least. Obviously, Sans has his whole interesting thing, and also Papyrus has his whole interesting thing. They do live in Snowdin, so they must be used to at least some form of snow. I've always been a big Monster Kid fan, so the fact that we get some Monster Kid in this makes me really happy. That's my little guy! We do get an update on the update that's going on with Deltarune. For those of you who don't know, Toby Fox is trying out this new thing that Game Maker made, I believe specifically for Toby Fox to use when updating Deltarune to make it easier to update the chapters. And he's been having people playtest that to see how it's going, and it sounds like it's been going alright. They've been running into bugs, but that's unsurprising. Of course they were going to run into bugs. I do believe I've also heard that there's been some minor changes to the game made as well. Nothing huge, but Swatch's overworld sprite in the cafe in Castletown didn't look quite right. It looks more like his concept art, and now it looks more accurate to how he looks when you actually see him up close. This might be my personal favorite art from it. It's just Monster Kid and Frisk standing together as it snows. And I love the big puffy coat that they put Frisk in. It's so cute! As usual, we get a Deltarune progress update. For a while, newsletters didn't really have much to say, and that makes sense because there wasn't really much to talk about. But the last few have had actually stuff to tell us about how close we are getting to the release of chapters 3 and 4, and it's just getting more and more exciting. As we can see, the Shiba Inu that it represents chapters 3 and 4 has been dug up, and will hopefully melt, and we can see what's going on. In my opinion, this means that Toby Fox is projecting a spring release. So I guess that's quarter 1? But that he doesn't want to say a definite date or month because he doesn't want to make a promise that he can't keep. So it's oh, it's frozen. So it could be, the spring. It could be closer to the summer. Who knows? Maybe if enough things go wrong, it'll be fall. I don't think it'll be fall. Everything that Toby has said has clearly geared towards it happening pretty soon. And pretty soon is obviously relative. By pretty soon, I mean, if we don't have it in the next 6 months, then I'm gonna start being what's going on there? I also love this one. It took me a while to figure out what Frisk was doing. My mind couldn't comprehend that it was an upside down umbrella, and I was did Frisk get a weird tree? What are they holding? More chapter 3 information. We get to see Susie in the one blink animation, and she seems to be lying on nothing in particular. But I will say that it looks like the color palette that we saw in, I believe it was last newsletter, the fall newsletter, I think. Where we got to see Chris and Susie standing on like some docks over an abyss that's kind of like carpety. So this looks like she is going to wake up in that area, in my opinion. The game has been professionally tested. Very exciting. By the sound of the newsletter, it sounds like it doesn't usually get professionally tested, which makes sense. It's an indie game. They don't always. So it sounds like it was a cool experience, at least for Toby. And I do think it's very funny that, you know, obviously the playtesters are supposed to be spotting anything that's wrong with the game. At least as far as I know, that is the job of a playtester, to spot anything that is not as it seems it should be. And obviously, when a game has things that are intentionally incorrect, then a lot of those get flagged as, hey, did you mean to do this? So it sounds like Chapter 3 is pretty solid, just about ready to go. Toby has said that the only thing that needs to be dealt with are the console-related aspects. He said that he wanted to release it on all platforms that he's planning to. I can't remember exactly what. I know it's at least PC, at least Switch? Would it be on Switch too? I don't know. That doesn't matter. But he's trying to get it so that it will release on everything at the same time, which adds to the workload of what he needs to do to get the chapters out, which is part of the delay. Chapter 4, we get what I believe to be some Temmie art. It at least looks like how Temmie usually draws. She usually has those like really soft lines instead of the harsh black. Toby talks about some of the translation going on with Chapter 4, which means that we get to see a little bit of the text. I'll be honest, I don't know what all of these EDs, E9s, EH are supposed to mean. I'm sure that somebody does and has explained it in their own video. We do see some dialogue of Inferno and Inferno. And then somebody saying, yeah, alright, what's with you? Making me feel better? I like you too, Susie. Yeah, alright, I'll knock it off with that stupid voice. And at first, I thought that that was going to be Susie and Lancer, but considering that our next part that we get is Lancer and Susie talking to each other, it feels like the people who are talking was deliberately cut out to leave it a mystery as to who is talking to who. So I'm excited to see who it is that are talking to each other. In the next one, we do get to see more of Susie and Lancer talking, with Lancer saying, Susie, can you enrich my enclosure? Susie, I can punch a hole in drywall and hide toys inside. Thank you. Someday I will do the same for you. And more than anything, it just makes me excited that we do get to see more of them. Obviously, if this is for Chapter 4, some have speculated that Chapter 4 we won't have a dark world, or at the very least it will take place almost entirely outside of a dark world. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it does point to at least being able to go to Castletown and obviously talking with the Darkners that we have assembled there. We also get some new Birdly dialogue. As a Birdly lover, this is big news for me. Listen, it disgusts me to say this, but as an act of charity, I will let you be the breeze under my wings. You, me, festival. Now, who is Birdly talking to? I would like to think that it's Chris, that this is a possible dialogue you can get with Chris, but it's far more likely, in my opinion, that he's talking to Susie, because we know that he now has an established crush on Susie. It will also be interesting to see if this dialogue stays, and by that I mean, hey, remember that route where Birdly looks like he's in a coma? Obviously, everybody is always wondering about if Birdly will be around in future chapters, but at the very least, it seems like they didn't write him out with the anticipation of, and it doesn't matter if you did Snowgrave or not, you're just not going to see him again. He got a cold. You don't see him. So at the very least, they're not taking the easy way out. We also get a little bit of dialogue from El Niña. I'm really excited to see both her and La Niño in the upcoming chapter. As I mentioned before, I really, really dig their design. So seeing their kind of attack patterns and what they do and more of their personality, I feel like I actually don't know what I feel like they're gonna be. I was gonna say that I feel like they'll probably be commentating on our characters as they go through the TV world, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. That doesn't sound right either. So who knows what kind of role they're gonna play. I'm excited either way, though. We also get some information on Chapter 5! Very exciting there. Obviously, we don't get a lot of information on it, but we just get enough information that it is in the works. It is in production, and progress has been picking up, or at least starting to become more steady, now that work is being completed on the other things, and they've had some new hires. I definitely think it's a good thing that Toby has a team that he's working with now. I can't imagine how long this game would be taking if he didn't have people working with him to put it together. Not to downplay at all, like, what one person is capable of, but it's already been almost 10 years since Undertale, and one man really is only capable of so much. And I hope that maybe, if nothing else, it makes the process more enjoyable for him. We also get a Burger Pants. Everybody loves to see Burger Pants or Pizza Pants. When are we gonna get a name for this guy? Are we gonna get a real name for Burger Pants at some point? There's been some new merch. That's always very exciting, though I will admit that nothing in this release particularly interests me. The pins are really cute, but I'm like at that point where I have as many pins as I can fit on anything that I want, to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I should get like a pin banner or something to like display them on at least. But until I get to that point, it's just kind of like, what am I gonna do with these? Also, there's a little Shawn plush. How cute! They do have felt details, which I'm not a big fan of when plushes have felt details instead of like actual pieces that are stuffed and sewn. But I do understand why they are felt details, and so I don't hold it against the plush or the manufacturers. And I do love that they gave them a staff. Obviously, we've only ever known Shawn as a shopkeep, but we are aware that Shawn at one point was a royal magician. So getting to see some of that tied into this is really cool. I especially love, though, the sketch of Shawn. This looks like Toby art because he tends to have this kind of sketchy MS Paint looking texture to his art. But I really love how it turned out anyway. I don't know. I think I mentioned this last time, but Toby's art just has a certain energy to it that I really like. A wizard energy to it. Things to think about. And I love the idea of dusty magic that twinkles like broken dreams. It's also mentioned that there is no tail in the drawing, despite Shawn being a cat. And I love that added on to this is Toby going like, should they have a fluffy tail? Maybe it was torn off. If you think they have a tail, that can still exist in your mind. Don't be discouraged by this. I actually really love the idea, though, of that Shawn had a tail, but because they're an old and loved, hopefully, stuffed animal, it was torn off at one point. That's just what happens sometimes. Cute picture of Frisk and Toriel, with Frisk having caught a lot of snow and showing it off. There's a new song by Toby and Camellia for Sega's rhythm game, Chunithim? Always love to hear some new music from Toby. I'm sure, like many people, one of my favorite parts for Chapter 3 and 4 will be to hear what new songs Toby has added. I do wonder how much of the music Toby himself will be doing, or if he'll be having anybody else help out with the music. Obviously, music has always been Toby's personal forte, but I feel like we are seeing more and more Toby collaborating with others, Toby having others contribute more, like in the Spamton sweepstakes from a few years ago. I just made that video, so it's on mine. Only like 2 of the 5 songs that you can hear in the MP3 player on the page are actually done by Toby, and the other 3 are by somebody else, which they're just kind of like remixes, so I don't want to downplay a remix. But there is a certain amount of work that writing an original song doesn't go into a remix. But who knows, maybe we'll see more collaborations between Toby and other creators in Deltarune itself in the future. And then, of course, the comedy beat. Papyrus gets snow dropped on it, but at least he has a good humor about it. Papyrus, I miss you. Please, please, Papyrus, I need you. I need you in the next chapters. The world is so dark and cruel. Okay, I'm fine. At the end, Toby just once more confirms that Chapter 3 and 4 will release in 2025. But still, he doesn't tell us, like, any kind of range of when in 2025 it will be. And I do believe it's because he just doesn't want to pin down anything and feel stressed about trying to meet that deadline. And then, of course, at the bottom here, we have this little antlered snowman. And I'll admit, when I first read through this, I was like, oh, cute. And then I went along with my day. And then somebody was like, hey, first official dialogue from Des in this newsletter. Isn't that crazy? And I went, huh? There's what? So if you click him, it brings up a new page, which reads another little poem like last time. When it snows, me and my sister and everyone have a contest to make the biggest snow angel of all. We lie on the ground and spread out our arms and wave them until we get a shape just like us. I'm the smallest, even smaller than Chris, but I don't lose. Because after we stand up to look, Des always tells me, hey, look, Ellie, yours has more hidden underneath, and pushes away all the snow I couldn't reach, so I have the biggest wings of all. I wish it could snow whenever I wanted. Again, we get to see that Noelle has this desire of having magic in her life to solve her problems and to bring these memories back. And maybe she doesn't mean it literally in the way that I just interpreted it, but more in the she wishes it could snow because that's when her best memories of Des are, of her family, of her friends. We do get our first Des dialogue, and we do get to see that Des has a nickname for her little sister, which is just so cute. And we get to see that Des was clearly a supportive older sister. There was never really any doubt that Noelle and Des had any kind of a rocky relationship. All we've ever gotten between them was something of a positive feeling, but it is nice to get more of an interaction between them, even if it's just a little story from when they were kids. I really like, in general, these poems. This is just the second one that we've had, if I remember correctly. I believe this is only the second poem that we've had at the end of one of these. And I like them because they're not anything particularly time-consuming. I don't want to... This is going to make it sound like I'm downplaying poetry. I'm not. I love poetry. The Purse Line is a poem that I'm always thinking of, especially these days. Anyway, but like, it doesn't take like a big production team. It's just something to put together that gives you a better sense of some characters and characterization. And I don't know, it's just such a nice note to end it on. I do hope that he continues doing that. Alright, that's going to be it for this newsletter. Thank you for coming and checking out what my thoughts were. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again just because I've always loved these newsletters. I think it's a great way that Toby has found to keep in touch with the fan base, keep them updated, keep them kind of satiated between releases. I think not hearing a lot from creators can be frustrating, and while I don't fault any creators who don't communicate with their audience, they have no reason to, and a lot of times it's easier. I do appreciate that Toby Fox has taken the time to put these together and keep us in the loop. It's nice. Alright, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, and I'll probably see you guys again in the new year.